guy holding the giant, bright gold AK-47 on the poster.
That's Liberace's.
And he was just outside playing Big Buck Hunter, and this guy doesn't play around. He's a badass shot. I'm not kidding.
I go skeet shooting. That impressed a lot of you guys.
We're in Texas. We just actually shoot birds here.
Let's go shoot some birds.
Yeah. So, you know, a big part of your career has been playing different forms of cops, from FBI agents, and you're on the Shield, and you even played a mall security cop.
Yeah, I wouldn't really count that as like.
Well, you played all
security guard.
Yeah, you played all different versions of the law. So, you know, when you go in and you put on the badge and the uniform, is it just, do you feel like a cop sometimes?
No, not at all. I mean, usually it's, you know, like in Shooter, I was like an FBI guy, and it was a big action movie. And in Observe and Report, I was like this dude who thought he was a pimp. So it's like, you can't really count that as like a cop. This is the only one where I'm like, you know, we had pre-production for about 4 months, and we were sparring. I don't know how many people spar out here, but when somebody punches you in the face for the first time, it gets a little crazy. And then they punch you a second and third time, and then you get into it and you want to hurt them back. And then what's going on?
Oh, this got romantic in here.
Whoa. Sorry, I just want to make it weird for a little bit. But then we were doing like, you know, a lot of weapons training and stuff like that, and then we really rehearsed a lot. This is the only time that I actually really felt like a cop. Thank you.
We actually have a lot of cops here in the audience, so you know, round of applause from the cops. How do you do as a cop? Yeah? We're ready to make you an honorary cop. Well, what did you do? Did you do like ride-alongs and all that
Man,
stuff?
I did like 4 months of ride-alongs, and I'm like, you really get to see what you know, these police officers are up against. And they actually really liked a lot of the, you know, the neighborhoods and the culture in the neighborhoods and all these guys, and they're trying to make sure that the guys who aren't in gangs and the guys who aren't corrupt, that they, you know, that the gangsters leave them alone.
Yeah.
And they're really trying to protect, and I think that's really cool. And you know, this is one of the first couple of movies that I've known in recent history where like actually good guys are portrayed in film, and it's exciting, and you know, hopefully the action works out well enough, and all the banter in the car is funny enough for you guys. But you know, that's the one thing different about this story, is that like it's like a, you know, what it's really like to be like an LAPD cop.
Yeah, I mean,
or cop for anywhere for that matter.
I felt like I was in the car the whole time. Do you guys feel like that? It was like the most intense episode of Cops I've ever seen.
Yeah, but funny cops.
Yeah.
Not a lot. Like if Jake Gyllenhaal was a cop, that's probably what would happen.
I was surprised how funny it was. Like it honestly like bended all the genres. Like it felt like a horror film at times. It felt like a comedy. Like it was dramatic all the time. I mean, you know, was that something? David Ayer is obviously who film directed. He's done a ton of cop films himself, so he's definitely an aficionado.
Yeah, well, he was directing this movie. He's directed a couple of other movies, but he wanted this to be pretty good, and so it was like.
What is that?
Here, do you have a question? Okay, cool. Sorry. Oh, that was your phone. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah,
no, but he wanted something for everybody. You know, he wanted it to be funny, and he wanted it to be, you know, have a lot of action, and also like, you know, like we had like a, you know, like the things of being a young father. I have a 4-year-old, so I could definitely connect with that, and you know, him finally meeting the right girl, like, and it's I don't know. I think it should have something for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And Natalie, what kind of training did you do? Did you do 4 months and ride-alongs and all that stuff?
No, I didn't. That wasn't required for my role. I did though wear that. I had a pregnant belly, you know, so I did wear that out in public just to kind of get the whole sitting down right and get the whole like movement, just be comfortable with it. And I went to the batting cages with it, where people thought I looked really weird. And I did some, like I went to a bar and stuff.
Went to a bar. That's on this. All right, so you got outside. Mind your own business.
So we played around. We played around with the belly a lot. But Michael Pena and I, you know, we actually spent a lot of time together. One of the biggest things with this.
Whisperer had saved me.
Dude, seriously, what's up, man?
One of the biggest things with this film was like with the film was the fact that we really try to make it real, you know, and close to home as possible. So we really put a lot of time in, you know. Michael and Jake both had months and months of training. Michael and I met a lot and kind of built a relationship as friends. You know, we knew each other somewhat before we started shooting, but by the time we started shooting, we knew each other a whole lot. Like going out, we had like little mini dates where we get to know each other and know certain things and stuff. So that way, when we got to it, you know, we've been married for a long time. So that way, it kind of showed through the movie that we had a very close relationship.
Your main thing was just to do research and practice sexual hand gestures, right?
Wow, that scene.
Yeah, Texas Twister, baby.
Oh no. we all know what that is, so we'll just move that along.
Yeah, give a shout out.
I've never heard of that before the movie, and I don't.
Oh wow.
No, we did. We actually, you know, surveyed a lot around the crew. David Ayer pulled me aside and he's like, "Look, I want you to make this." You know, a lot of that was scripted. He did write, you know, a lot of that.
You didn't write the Texas Twister.
I think I wrote that part.
Oh, all right.
No, I did my research. You know, everybody has those funny names and stuff for all the moves, you know, all the Kama Sutra moves and stuff. So I thought it'd be really uncomfortable to kind of just let it all out. And he wanted me to make that whole scene very uncomfortable for Michael, so everybody can kind of be like, "Oh, stop," you know. So
I think that scene was uncomfortable for everybody.
yeah, it's definitely.
And while curiously informative.
Yeah.
And you continue that tonight by making it uncomfortable for all of us.
Made it weird a little bit, but
Yeah.
still.
You've also opened up the door to have weirdos come up to you after the movie and be like, "Have you heard of the?"
Yeah.
I don't know.
The thing is with that, you know, we had that was an all night shoot. You know, we had a couple of drinks to kind of loosen ourselves up because we're all supposed to be.
Well, it's at a
drunk.
wedding, so it's like, you know, everybody drinks at a wedding, and we
Yeah.
decided that, like, why don't we just drink it?
And
But
have some fun.
except weddings are usually like 4 or 5 hours. This one was like
12.
14.
Yeah.
So we were schmasted by the
Yeah,
smashed and wasted.
That
what you're
scene was
saying
shot
is
like around 3 o'clock in the morning too. So I look back on it, I was like, why did I do that? Because at that moment I was just really loose and giving it on. I forgot everything was being recorded forever.
So you guys are actually drunk in that scene.
Wasted.
Awesome.
Like, no, not blackout wasted, obviously, like enough to like, but the scene where I said, you know, I would take care of your kids, that's a scene that we actually talked about a lot. And we spoke about it, and then finally, like an hour before shooting, he gives me the pages, and it's like 3 pages of dialogue. I'm like, oh man. And at that time, I don't remember shooting any of that, filming anything, because I was.
So that's like hardcore method acting.
Yeah, I mean, it came as close to method acting as I could get.
That one was at 5 o'clock in the morning too.
Yeah, 5 o'clock.
How?
That was at 5 o'clock in the morning too.
Yeah, 5 o'clock.
How? I was surprised to find out how much of the film had that kind of handheld, kind of like, you know, people call found footage aesthetic. You know, how much was on the script and how much was just kind of you turning the camera on?
I think it was like 95, 98%, something like that. Like not very much was improv, and that's where we had to like rehearse a bunch. Because if like me, when I get home, I want to watch some like YouTube videos and and now reality shows are really big. So what they, you know, the acting and the human drama has to be a little bit more real.
Yeah.
As opposed to, you know, in any other style. So we want to make it as loose as possible. So we rehearsed with that in mind.
Yeah.
Because we knew what kind of movie it was going to be. And also I think it leads to, you know, it just being more funnier.
Absolutely.
You know, I said more funnier. More funnier.
I'll say it felt a hell of a lot more real and natural than like any reality show. So I mean, it felt like you guys just turned the camera on and went. So let's kick it out to the audience. I'm sure you guys have a lot of great questions. Yes, sir. Right here. You look really ambitious. Go ahead.
Did Jake have a chance with Dancing with the Stars?
Yeah, that's a no, dude. Friend.
The blue?
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. At the very end, the last scene, when y'all are joking, and there's a call that comes across the radio. Was that significant? Did I just miss something there? Were they telling you not to do to go to a certain location or something?
You know what? I think they changed the cut a little bit, and that could have been where. Yeah, you're right. It
It
could
seemed
have
like
been.
it was a fork in the road, like, you know, and you went the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, it could like in retrospect, it could have been the call to go out to chase those gangsters.
I think that's what it was. I think it was the footage from the day of the.
It was like 2 hours before.
Yeah. Wow, we could clear that up. Yes, ma'am. You're, sir. Oh, sorry. You're way up there. Is your nose bleeding? No? Okay.
Carlos, I mean, you're Spanish. Did you grow up in California? Did you see that when you grew up? Have you?
I grew up in Chicago, and yeah, you guys are looking at me really weird right now. What's going on?
This theater is just doing all kinds of its own stuff.
So, no, but in all honesty, I'm like, you know, if people think that there's like a stereotype or whatever in this movie, I don't really fall for that one because I'm like, when I was 13, can we shut that off by any chance? Guys? When I was 13, I had my first bike for half an hour. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, I've seen my fair share of stuff, and, you know, that kind of stuff does go down. You know, there's like, I think half the kids that I grew up with are alive.
Yes, ma'am, right here.
Hi, first of all, I just wanted to say hi.
Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to say that I really love the character named Crash.
Thank you. Well, to be honest with you, not theater. I was in sports growing up. Yeah, I mean, no, but when I was a kid, I'm like, I started acting when I was 20. But I do say, like, you know, keep yourself busy and you know, if it's not theater, it's like, you know, some kind of sports or like academics or anything. Like, school for me was like a savior. My brother was like the leader as far as that goes. He wanted to get into a good college, and he's a correction officer now. And he wanted to, yeah, absolutely. And he wanted to, you know, he's the one who's like, I was a little bit of a troublemaker. I was never a gangbanger, but I was definitely like a little bit of a troublemaker, and he's the one who helped me, you know, get through that stuff. And, you know, then he started to, actually math was the thing that we used to battle on. And, you know, I for some reason, I watched, what is it, Stand and Deliver with Edward James Olmos. And I was like, I want to do to that. You know, I want to do calculus, and so that's what I ended up doing. Okay.
First of all, great job on the movie.
Thank you.
This is a question for kind of both of you. Michael, I know you've done your fair share of like dramas and comedies. This morning I just saw you in that Camaraderie.
Cool, thanks.
I have a question. After you're doing these funny angles, do you ever like feel like when you're doing for like another drama, people are thinking about this guy
Oh yeah, no, not at all. Because I'm like, I started out with Crash, and then did World Trade Center Shooter, and like, so it's all been drama. So it's like the view in Hollywood for me is I'm like, I've only done 4 comedies. Eastbound and Down, Observer Report, 30 Minutes or Less, and Tower Heist. So those 4, and then I've done 30 drama pieces. So I think I'm all right. How about you?
I mean, I think it goes both ways. I mean, either you're right for it, you're right for it, you know? So, I mean, you go out for certain things. There's certain people that can only just do comedy, you know? And I think in Michael and myself, we've both done, you know, quite our share of both. So I think we don't get pigeonholed into one thing, you know? Like, if we do a couple comedies or great, but we can actually in the audition room pull off the drama. I mean, if you have the chops, you have it.
I do have to admit though, when I went to the audition for this, I was kind of chubby, slumpy. I mean, and then my son at the time was 2, so I'm like, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna play with Legos, eat ice cream. Oh, that's a good deal. You know, and then so it's the young father, you know, vibe or whatever. And then I almost didn't get the part because I was, you know, I'm supposed to be some badass cop, and I'm literally like, dude, I would love to play the cop. You know, be great for it. Just hire me on the spot if you need to. And he's like, yeah, dude, you gotta work that belly off. And I'm like, dude, there's all kinds of cops, man. It's like, not my movie.
They ask you what made you good for the role, and you're like, I'm really good at eating donuts.
God, I didn't say that.
All the way at the top.
All the way in the back.
Yes, I have a question. During this movie, we saw a lot of emotional, everyday realities that happened. what was the most hardest and difficult scene you had to shoot?
You said more funny, and she said most hardest.
But I understood exactly what you meant. I think the last scene, to be honest with you, like the scene where Jake, I think he's gonna get shot, and the worst nightmare for when I interviewed so many people, and the worst nightmare for an LAPD officer, and then any officer at that point, now that my brother's a correctional officer, is really you put more attention on your partner and on your associates, because they consider themselves family. And then when his wife was about to deliver a baby, she was pregnant, and the last thing that my character wanted was to see his partner die on my watch, how they say. So we talked about that for a long time, and it finally became a reality. And then when we shot it, I have a really tough time with those emotional scenes. But for some reason, I asked David Ayer, I'm like, can you put the camera on me first? Because I think it's going to be okay. And he, chose the first take. And that never happens. Usually I got to put pepper in my eyes and onions and I'm not lying. Vicks Vapor Rub in my eye or right underneath, so that I'm like, man, this is really tough. But I think that was the toughest scene.
To piggyback on that, camaraderie and that kind of brotherly, love-hate relationship is really hard to fake, and you guys had such a genuine, I really believe that you guys would take a bullet for each other. What was the process like, kind of building that camaraderie with Jake?
I mean, it was just talking about it, and really, literally just, all the guys that we did ride-alongs, they weren't shy about it at all, which I thought was really cool. They said, yeah, I would take a bullet for my partner, yeah, if it meant saving his life. And I was like, and then the other one said it about the other guy. And there's there's some guys that that they don't necessarily get along with, where they're working, but they would definitely do everything in their power to stick up for them. And I was like, wow, man, that's a lot of integrity and honor, and really keeping your word. And then there's actual times where I'm like, they get put to the test, and time again they show that to be true. It's not just words, and you could see it in their eyes. It's like, worst thing for me would be if my partner was dead, or I don't want that. I don't want that on my watch. They kept saying it. Everybody kept on saying it, and it's kind of infectious because it's like you wish, Hollywood, you do a lot of stuff on your own. You know what I mean? Audition on my own, blah blah blah. This read it, and so it's kind of cool to see such a real camaraderie, and it's and that's the way they have to do, because they have to fight gangsters and criminals that actually have the same pact. But except I don't think that all the criminals actually go through with it.
So you guys just probably just hung out all the time.
Yeah, hung out all the time, and he's a different dude too. I'm he's from Hancock Park. His dad's a director. His mom's an Academy Award nominated writer, and his sister's an actress. My brother's a correctional officer, and my parents are farmers. So it's like, all right, man, we're gonna have to make this work somehow, dude. But we found it through just how brothers are, how they bicker but still love each other, and when push comes to shove, they'll be there for each other.
Yes, ma'am, right there.
Hi, Natalie. You're awesome. So,
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
okay. Every other scene, I was portrayed to be shot. I'm looking forward to going to the shot.
Couple key.
But my question for both of you guys is, how did you ever take those scenes home?
When he passed away, I mean, I kind of go half and half. Sometimes it's a little difficult depending on the scene. But for me, that scene, I had my ex-boyfriend passed away, so it kind of hit really close to home, for me. So that was kind of a little sad and exhausting, and the fact that we shot the ending every which way possible, where Michael died, Jake died, and then they both died. So I was crying for 10 hours straight. So by the time, I was dried out, and I needed, at the end, I needed the menthol and the whole works, but that was probably the only scene for me that at the end of the day, I'll go back to my trailer and just kind of remember myself at the funeral and remember that kind of whole experience. So that was the only thing that I took away home with me. And then when I watched the movie, the thing with the kids in the closet, where I grew up wasn't a very good neighborhood either. We had a crack house on the corner, and they were like that. So that kind of, after I saw the movie, affected me.
Yeah, I definitely, it took me a good, I don't know how long, but a good month to shake it off, because I found myself, usually I'm like, if a cop goes right behind me, I'm like, damn it, okay, no, I got to, wait, I got insurance, I'm good. I'm registered, I don't have any tickets, and I pay everything on time. But what was funny is that, I remember going to, a block party, and then I was talking to all the cops. And I was like, yeah, I know this guy, blah, blah, blah. And I was still, that's the first time I ever felt about as close as an actor could feel to being a cop. And, when you really get into it, you know what I mean? It's kind of really cool, actually. And after a month, I was like, okay, I could get a ticket. I could be arrested. I'm like, let's just keep it cool. But that mentality of David Ayer made us spar all the time and work out and do everything that that cops do. So it was like, once you stop that, thank God I jumped into another movie and was able to shake it off a little bit.
I imagine you probably had to assume the role and with some of the heavier stuff, just kind of leave it, leave it at work and not bring it home and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, but it's still tough though, because it's like, you keep exercising and exercising those kind of that I can't even describe it, but it's definitely a mentality where you're always watching your six and scoping this crowd, making sure that cops actually know you're like that guy, and then those are the people that they watch out for.
Yeah, it's like the first stage. Next question. Yes, ma'am. Where?
Yeah.
It was not safe. No, I remember the first day, it was just a camera test, and it's our first, it's not even a real shooting day, but we had 5 police officers, and then, riding along, there's 4 gangsters being like, we're gonna want you here, and then bam, you know what I mean, I was like, whoa, and then there's a little snap, and you're like, whoa, and then we're doing a scene, and then there's a car coming by, he's like, we're like, whoa, and it was just the exhaust. And so I was like, oh man, really? And it was like a station wagon with a grandma.
I hope those are going to be on the DVD.
No, but you definitely had to deal with some of especially the gang leaders, and tell them, what's up, what you're shooting, because they could literally make it a living hell. And then, you remember the party where Big Evil says, because my evil's big, like that guy, he was a great actor. That one was full of real gangsters. So there was there was actually fights in the party, and I was like, man, I didn't sign up for this. Being actors without real tattoos. And so but there was, the thing about it, there was real tension. Even walking through, because I'm like, even they were trying to act, and I was like, you don't need that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say you guys were awesome. I love
Thank you.
in the movie. I love the scene where you talk about your mother who told you, gave good advice about if you can't do without her, then,
That's good advice, though, don't you think?
But what are you guys doing?
That's good advice, though, don't you think?
But what are you guys doing next? What's your next project?
Fortunately, after that, I booked I did this movie called Cesar Chavez. I played Cesar Chavez in a movie. Not the boxer, not the movie. The civil rights activist.
We drive down that street all the time.
Oh, you do? Oh, right on. Some cities are like, yeah, and then I was like, the civil rights activists are like, yeah. No, actually, no. It was so weird, because I'm like, last year at Comic-Con, which was about 2 months ago, 14 months ago, they said, what's your dream role? And I was like, well, I'm a big fan of writers. Wherever they write, I just want to read the best stuff. I said, well, I would like to play Cesar Chavez. And then 6 months later, I get a call and saying that they want to meet me for Cesar Chavez. So I'm like, and it actually happened. And John Malkovich is in it, and like a bunch of really good actors.
I just finished shooting a movie with Mark Wahlberg, Russell Crowe, and Catherine Zeta-Jones called Broken City, which is another drama noir kind of film, and Mark Wahlberg's a torn cop, kind of figuring out what to do right or wrong, and I'm the girl, and it's really interesting, and it's gonna be interesting and fun with Alan Hughes, who did Book of Eli and Menace Society and Dead Presidents. So it was really interesting work.
Going back to the hood.
Yeah. Always from the hood, always from the hood.
Yeah. Next. Yeah, right down here.
I don't know, dude, but I'm like, if there is a fourth season, I do think they want me to come back. I'm like, I don't know how like a billionaire Mexican dude's gonna be in North Carolina. I want to live to here. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yes, ma'am, right here.
Yeah, there's a bunch. There's always a bunch. There's always like a thinning out. Because you want to make this kind of movie in about like an hour, 40 minutes, an hour, 30 minutes. And also like in a weird way, you kind of want to leave the theater wanting more. And that's what you hope for. But there was like a boxing sequence that we were in, but that was right in the beginning. But with the fight with the dude Bones actually, he said that's all he needed, as far as the boxing and the fighting.
The whole quinceañera scene too. Remember that we went to go get you? You guys were having the powwow talking to the quinceañera. There's a lot of it.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff. It'll probably be in the not the outtakes, but the deleted scenes.
How choreographed was that brawl in that house?
Not at all.
Yeah, it didn't look
And I was like, we were trying not to hit each other, and it's David. He really wants it to be real. So we didn't rehearse it. And he's like, show us what you gonna do, bro. Like, man. And then so you go in, and I was like, all right. The only thing that we planned was the entrance, like me taking off my stuff, and then doing this, and then like I do this, and he just, hits me like first take, bloody nose. And I'm like, I don't know if this is a good idea, man. just thinking about the schedule. The schedule, like first week, I'm like, he had a busted nose, like the whole movie, and then I accidentally kneed him in the face. You know what I mean? He had a busted nose, and then like he accidentally hit me. I don't know if whatever. And then I picked him up, and I'm like, I literally like was in the moment. I was like, and I'm like, sorry, dude. But I was like in wrestling in high school and stuff, so I'm like, I was used to doing that. But those people know how to fall. He was doing one of these. It was bad. That's why I apologize, and also like the wind on him.
Next question. Oh, right there. Yes.
I wanted to say that I liked the ending because we were all depressed at the end, when you get killed. But then he showed back 2 hours of the good part of y'all talking, so it just really made you feel better about the movie where we're going to leave that.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm glad that they kept that in as well. Because when I first read the script, I was like, mother, what's up? Oh, there's still more pages. And then I read this really funny story. And you're right. I'm glad that they kept it in. They were talking about not keeping it in maybe, but I'm glad that they did.
So you mentioned that you guys shot alternate endings, but was that the way the script was, having you die?
No, in the beginning, both of us died.
Yeah. That would have been too much. I would have just gone home and cried.
You've been raising your hand.
Yes,
for
sir, right there.
Sir. I think we're going to Sundance in January, and then we're going to be doing some festivals like Cannes and Venice Film Festival, which is a great reason for me to go to Europe. And then it might be released around the same time next year, so you might be seeing me around the same time next year. Cool. It's going to be a different kind of movie. It's not going to be action. It's going to be
Yes, sir.
Mexican comedy.
Okay, Chivas saying, ¿que Judas Tejano o norteño?
¿Cómo que qué?
¿Que Judas Tejano o que Judas norteño?
Man, I can dance
You
hip hop.
dance.
A little bit of crump. No, I'm just kidding. Dude, I do this, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm not going out dancing on the stars anytime soon.
I've seen him do a little bachata though.
I don't even know what that is. I was imitating her. Like magical hips action. And I'm like, I didn't even want to be in the frame. I just want to sit down, look at her, and have a beer.
Dude, don't lie. You know you got the Mexican pointy boots at home.
Oh, right here, dude. No mames.
Watch out, the biggest Tejano club in DFW is right there. You're gonna get called out. Yes, sir.
First off, love the movie. Great.
Thank you.
One of the best I've seen this year. Why in the end did it take so long for the cavalry actually to arrive? Because, you know, cops are shot fires, you know, cops down under fire, they're going to be swarming in like crazy. Why did the director, do you think, waited so long for just one cop to show up at the end?
From what I remember, it actually doesn't take that long. You know, there's some times where we were in the cars and it was a code 3, and there's usually like 2 cars in one area, and then 2 cars all the way out area, 2 cars, 2 cars, 2 cars. So, you know, when we initially rolled up, there was like this guy. It was, I forget how it is, but it was just, I don't think we called out in time. You know, because we were just chasing one guy, and then he goes in, then we get ambushed, and if you see that there's a shot of the radio that actually gets shot, and so I have to call 911, and they have to go through dispatch, and then I think maybe 30 seconds later is when they come in, which is about the right time. I mean, I think that there's a pretty, like, there's a real shot of the radio getting, you know, blown off. It's pretty
You
prominent.
even mentioned it too, the hand was bloody and everything.
The hand was bloody, just so that people got it. Maybe they gotta stay on it for a little, like slow-mo.
I felt that same way though too. It's like you want them, because you're so invested in these characters, you want them to get there. Like why?
I think that there's a pretty, like, there's a real shot of the radio getting, you know, blown off. It's pretty
You
prominent.
even mentioned it too, the hand was bloody and everything.
The hand was bloody, just so that people got it. Maybe they gotta stay on it for a little, like slow-mo.
I felt that same way though too. It's like you want them, because you're so invested in these characters, you want them to get there. Like why isn't anybody there? But I did, like Michael said, yeah, they called halfway through that whole scene. They didn't know it was a code 3 until they got coded.
Oh, by the way, code 3 means that, like, you know, all vehicles go, you know, when you just call it in, you're chasing a guy, it's just you and whatever's happening. But when it's code 3, all vehicles come to your aid. 4, it's all good.
You know, honestly, and
Wow. Can't believe I remember that.
I think it was intentional from the beginning with the Once Upon a Time in South Central, but the whole movie felt like a Western. And the last scene, the shootout, feels like a Western shootout. And then, you know, we know in Westerns, like, the good guys don't always ride away in the sunset on a horse. So
Yeah, that's right.
it was a very cool element of the film. Yes?
I started not too long ago. I didn't want to do this at all ever. So I started like 6, 7 years ago. Just fell into it, kind of. I was modeling a little bit here and there, and my agency kind of sent me out on something, and I just wanted to give it a try. I did, and ended up booking a job, and from there, I kept just getting jobs and kind of started really liking it. I feel like if you've never done it before, maybe get into an acting class. Get into a class and kind of see if you have what it takes, because it's one thing when you look at it, you're like, oh, I can do that, and to get on our side right here and like actually interpret something and do it in front of people, because you act really, you're really vulnerable, and you'll be surprised at how many people get really shy when that comes up, and so I would say get into acting classes and see what you got and get advice from the teacher. And then, there's agencies in every city, even whether it's commercials, but a lot of actors start with commercials, because it's kind of like little baby steps. You get in front of the camera, you get to learn certain things and stuff, and from there, believe it or not, a lot of people from commercial actually be on TV, maybe give LA a shot once. And a lot of times you can go online and see like open casting calls, and you can put yourself on tape and send it into like these, casting offices and stuff. And with the internet now, I mean, the options are endless. You can kind of look up and do whatever, but I would first and foremost go into an acting class or an acting studio and try to see if you have what it takes and if you really do like it. Because it's kind of, a little uncomfortable feeling, at least for me it was, to kind of be very vulnerable and be out there and kind of just be like, you act all silly in the bathroom when you're in the car alone, but to do it in front of people you don't know and you're being recorded, it's kind of a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I would say just, hit up, there's a ton of, indie film being shot here. Hit up the Dallas Film Community's website, Dallas Film Society's website. There's a ton of great film schools around here, so there's a ton of great student projects to be a part of, so that'd be a good route to go to. All right, we got time for 2 last questions, so, yes, sir. Right there, yes, you. Make it a good one.
I just want to say that for me, this is the best drop in dollars. Bullshit aside. I just want to say, you guys did a great job on
Thank you.
portraying the comedy that happens in the car. I think the best time that I had in Dallas was when I was with my partner laughing at my stupid shit that we do. I think you guys did a great job. Even when my rookies fucked up over there.
I like that the rookies are over there. That's exactly correct. No, we did a lot of ride-alongs with guys like you, and I'm like, we're going to ride along with that guy. And it's crazy, man, but like, you gotta wait on calls, man. You got the QEs up, and I'm like, what are you gonna do? Like, if you guys don't talk, you know what I mean? Like, you're gonna die with boredom. So you gotta keep, and that's all of a sudden you guys become comedians. And I'm like, literally, holy cow, man, some of the best comedy came out of cop cars. And I was like, that's when I was like, we gotta do this, man. We gotta do it. These guys. And then we would tell the writer and, writer-director, it was like, man, they said this and they said that. And you know what's crazy, too? Like, I went on a ride-along, the first one, and there was this white dude from Simi Valley, which is like a, little community in the, the suburbs. And, when he spoke to us, he spoke, very, like, using correct grammar and everything. And then as soon as he was in the car, he changed, man. You know what I mean? He's like, yo, what's up, man? And then the dude was like, yo, man, how you be, man? Slow motion. It's like, good for you, dude. But you got to, if you don't talk to them the same way that they talk to you, they're gonna be able to peg you. You know what I mean? It was interesting. What's up, rookies?
All right, last question. Make it a good one. It better be good. Go for it.
Doesn't have to be.
Yeah, you.
Were there any funny bloopers or anything that happened in your movie that you can tell us about?
Well, it's not a blooper, but I'm like, man, I wish I could have it back. Remember when we were chasing that one guy before he does the, before we get ambushed? Like, I really crashed into that car. I did. And I was like, you can hear it, but I wish they would have told us, but they just put brand new tar in a city in in a block in South Central, which they never do. And then the ABS brakes locked up, so I'm like, vroom.